The tank, in actual fact, was built in 1881, and it was first used on a commercial basis in 1883, and it's the oldest surviving commercial tank in the world, and it was the only one that was privately owned by William Denny brothers, who were famous shipbuilders in the Clyde. The room we're in just now is what we call the drawing office. Now, this is where the draftsman and the tracer would have worked. Now, the draftsman would draw up what was called a lines plan, and the tracer would do the fine drawings. And this is the start of the process of making the models. And this is the area that we call the clay bed area. It's where the model makers worked. That's like your carpenters and your clay moulders. What we're looking at here just now is a typical clay bed with the hull shape already made. Now, when they were testing models in here, initially the models were made out of paraffin wax. This is just a very small piece, to give you an idea. And to my left, these are silver tanks. Each of these silver tanks will hold up to 1/3 of a tonne of melted wax, and the wax will be poured down this tube into the clay bed. This gives you an idea of what the wax model looks like when it comes out the clay bed. It will then be transferred over to what we call the cutting machine, where a series of profile lines are cut onto it. And the cutting machine, when it's turned on, would cut a series of profile lines from the keel to the gunwale or top to bottom. And once they have their completed lines on the wax model, it's then transferred up the stairs to what we call now the scraping platform, where it's then pared down. And that really is where the work begins. When the model has been completed in the cutting machine, it's then transferred up the stairs to the scraping platform, and this is where it's then hand finished using various tools. The children that come in schools love this part, and all they do is they get one of these tools. It's called a spring steel scraper, 45-degree angle, and what they're doing is scraping away at the wax. Children love this, and this is what it looks like. That's some wax shavings there. So then taken from the scraping platform, taken down into the dock area, where it's then hooked up underneath the dynamometer carriage. This area here is a test tank. Now, it's 100 metres long, or 330 feet, which is as long as a football pitch. Now, when the model has been pared down at the scraping platform, it's then transferred to what we call the trimming dock. It's then lowered down into the water, hooked up under the carriage. The carriage would then pull the model up the length of the tank, and the dynamometers on the carriage would record things like speed, resistance, drag, depending on what your customer is looking for. In the late 1950s, Denny developed a hovercraft which they hoped would open up a new market for small fast ferries. An experiment model, the D1 and D2, were built, and hovercraft services were tested in the Thames and in Hong Kong. But there was many problems with the design, however, and even though the hovercraft project continued after Denny's went into liquidation in 1963, the prototypes were never put into full production. Between 1905 and 1913, Denny Brothers experimented with one of the world's first helicopters. Tests on how propellers provided power in water led Tank Superintendent E.R. Mumford to research how propellers could provide power in the air. This helicopter was built and is believed to have flown a short distance, but the outbreak of the First World War meant that development of the design was not continued. I'm really delighted that you've been able to come and visit the Denny Tank. People look at ships, but they don't realise what was involved in building them. This facility here is more into the scientific and hydrodynamics aspect of shipbuilding, so I'm delighted that people can come in, see where it all began, and then they'll be able to look at ships, perhaps with a different outlook.